In the annals of criminal history, few names evoke as much revulsion and fascination as that of Albert Fish. Infamous for his heinous crimes against children, Fish's story is a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. In today's episode of Eye for an Eye, we delve deep into the twisted mind of Albert Fish, uncovering the shocking details of his crimes and exploring the unsettling legacy he left behind. From his insatiable hunger for human flesh to the chilling prey list that sickened the nation, Albert Fish was born on May 19, 1870 in Washington, D.C., to Randall and Ellen Fish. His family had a long history of mental illness, with his uncle diagnosed with mania, his brother sent to a state mental institution, and his sister facing a mental affliction. His mother experienced visual hallucinations, and 3 other relatives were diagnosed with mental health issues. Abandoned by his parents at a tender age, Fish was consigned to an orphanage, a place etched in his memory for its brutality. There, he endured regular beatings and witnessed sadistic acts of cruelty. Surprisingly, Fish found a perverse pleasure in the abuse, admitting, "I was there till I was nearly 9, and that's where I got started wrong. We were unmercifully whipped. I saw boys doing many things they should not have done." This tumultuous upbringing, marred by neglect and abuse, undoubtedly left a lasting impact on Fish's psyche, shaping his later descent into darkness. As Albert Fish grew up, troubling signs started to emerge in his behavior. He wet the bed, which is something many serial killers have in common. Along with this, he had a strange fascination with violence and enjoyed hurting himself. These early signs hinted at the extreme darkness within him, suggesting that he would go on to commit terrible acts against others. By 1880, Fish was taken out of the orphanage by way of his mom, Ellen Fish, who was a widow at that time. After that, Fish engaged in many disgusting behaviors like eating feces and consuming urine with every other boy he knew. After transferring to New York in 1890, his behaviors grew to become greater violent. He grew to be a prostitute and made money. He additionally nicely talked with kids, attracted them out of their residences, and tortured them in many ways. He additionally sexually harassed them and, at worst factor, he killed and cannibalized them. When he married and turned out to be a father of 6 children, he did the equal to his children. In the identity of taking part in games, he tortured them. Following the end of his marriage in 1917, when his spouse left him for another man, Albert Fish developed a habit of writing sexually explicit and vulgar letters to women listed in personal columns of newspapers. During this period, Albert Fish also honed his skills as a house painter, taking on various painting jobs in different residences. It was during this time that he targeted African American children and children with disabilities as convenient victims for his crimes, knowing that investigations into crimes against them were less likely to be pursued by authorities. A year later, Albert Fish came across an advertisement in the paper placed by a man named Edward Budd, seeking work in the countryside. Presenting himself as a farmer from Farmingdale, Fish visited the Budd family's home. To their eyes, he appeared to be a kind and trustworthy older gentleman, leaving a favorable impression. After discussions, a deal was struck, and Fish agreed to return in a few days to pick up Edward and bring him to the farm. Initially intending to target Edward for his sinister purposes, Fish's plans took a dark turn when he met 10-year-old Grace Budd. Captivated by her innocence, Fish shifted his focus, setting his sights on her instead. This tragic twist of fate would ultimately lead to Grace's untimely demise at the hands of Albert Fish. One day, Fish told Budd's family that he was going to attend a birthday party of his niece and let him take Grace with him. The family sent her with him. After that, Fish didn't return to Budd's family. Grace was tortured and killed. The investigation into Grace Budd's disappearance spanned 6 long years, marked by relentless efforts to uncover the truth behind the horrifying crime. However, it wasn't until November 11, 1934, that detectives received a significant breakthrough in the case. Mrs. Budd received an anonymous letter detailing the gruesome murder and cannibalism of her daughter, Grace. The letter provided chilling details of the empty house in Worcester, New York, where Grace was taken, stripped, strangled, dismembered, and consumed. Despite the macabre content, the writer strangely reassured Mrs. Budd that Grace had not been sexually assaulted. Tracing the paper the letter was written on eventually led police to a flophouse where Albert Fish was residing. Upon his arrest, Fish shockingly confessed to Grace's murder and admitted to killing other children. His demeanor during the confession, smiling as he described the horrifying details of his crimes, left detectives shaken. At his trial, which began on March 11, 1935, Fish pleaded innocent by reason of insanity, claiming that voices in his head compelled him to commit these heinous acts. Despite psychiatric testimony attesting to Fish's insanity, the jury found him sane and guilty after a 10-day trial. He was subsequently sentenced to death by electrocution. On January 16, 1936, Fish met his end at Sing Sing prison in Ossining, New York, where he was executed by electrocution. Though some rumors circulated that Fish found perverse pleasure in his demise, later assessments dismissed these claims as mere speculation. Although Albert Fish was only definitively linked to 3 confirmed victims, some historians speculate that he may have been responsible for as many as 100 deaths. If true, this would categorize him as one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Thank you for watching Eye for an Eye. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. If you have any thoughts or theories about this case, feel free to share them in the comments below. Stay tuned for our next episode.